Game of Thrones is everywhere these days. At first it was a bunch of books, and now it's a TV series, and there's action figures and memes and all this kind of thing. You know, I've never seen the show myself or read the books, so naturally I'm the best one to review it. So I'm going to review the first episode of Telltale Games' newest episodic adventure, Game of Thrones. The first episode is called Iron from Ice, so I'm going to review that this week.
Coming off of several heavily emotional episodic adventures, Telltale Games now jumps into the world of Westeros and brings us its first adventure in Game of Thrones, with the first episode, Iron from Ice. Taking place in the same universe as the television show and books, Iron from Ice follows House Forrester, a family not yet introduced in the TV series. In Telltale's narrative, you play as one of 5 different members or servants of the Forrester family, spreading into 6 different episodes. After the murder of the head of the house, Ethan Forrester is now placed in charge at a young age, and now has to juggle ruling his father's land as well as other dramas surrounding the Red Wedding with Joffrey, and Garrett, a Forrester servant banished to the Wall for the murder of several enemy characters in order to avoid all-out war. The episode makes a departure from other Telltale projects and switches off periodically to different characters rather than just playing as one character, such as Clementine or Lee from Walking Dead, or Bigby Wolf from The Wolf Among Us. Throughout the episode, you do see some familiar faces from the show who are all voiced by their respective actors, including Peter Dinklage as Tyrion,
impressive.
who seems to have escaped that other warfest he was involved in earlier this year, Death.
House Forrester is a northern house loyal to the king.
Are they?
I beg your pardon, Your Grace.
I wasn't talking to you. I want to hear from the girl. Is your family loyal to the king?
Perhaps you should ask the new Lord Forrester.
He's not here, is he? She is.
House Forrester's loyalty to the crown never wavers, Your Grace.
Much like recent Telltale efforts, the game adapts to the choices the player makes, which will affect future episodes as well as later seasons if there are any. The way the particular character you control responds in conversation has a deep effect later, so be careful with how you make choices. There also is the typical exploration and examining objects that Telltale titles are typically known for to learn more about the world. It finally really helps that the story was developed hand-in-hand with George R.R. Martin's personal assistant in order to make sure it fits in with the official canon of the universe under direct supervision and collaboration. This is a strong start for Telltale's newest project, with so many licensed games failing. It's nice to see a studio that can continue to make something out of what should be nothing.
So, although I don't know a whole lot about Game of Thrones, I've got some minor knowledge about it. I really enjoyed this experience. I mean, the first episode was only 2 hours long, and but it was really intense up to the end, especially at the end. I will not say anything about what happens at the end of this episode to one of your characters you play as, but I did not see it coming, and then it just like that, and I was like stunned. And now we have to wait 2 months to find out what happens next, because Telltale, they don't tend to reveal when they're releasing the next episode. They just kind of drop it on us. If any of you have ever played a Telltale game, they'll do that, like with The Walking Dead or The Wolf Among Us. And they'll just say, oh, by the way, this episode 2 or whatever is out tomorrow, and then we have to go buy it. So now I've got 2 Telltale games I'm going through. The Tales from the Borderlands and then the Game of Thrones, so 2 at once. Well, the Game of Thrones is going to have 6 episodes, so we got another 5 to go. If every 2 months, we may not see the end of this thing till the end of summer. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they go back to their original 1 a month model, for at least for Game of Thrones, I would hope. So because of that, I will give Game of Thrones Episode 1 of Season 1, Iron from Ice, a 9, because it's enjoyable. It's some of Telltale's best work. I mean, The Walking Dead, when they did that, that was phenomenal. And Wolf Among Us was pretty good. So, I mean, hopefully if they can keep that going, that'll be one of their better franchises they've taken control of. Because, we had a Game of Thrones game a couple of years ago made by a completely different studio, and it was disastrous. So Telltale really seems to know how to take these franchises that don't tend to do well. I mean, Walking Dead has had some games too, even before they took control of it, and then that was terrible, and they took that one and they made something phenomenal. So Telltale really knows how to do these kind of things. Like they did that's kind of their business. They take franchises that are popular or maybe forgotten, and they can make a phenomenal experience, like they did with Sam & Max, Homestar Runner people, which who knows what happened to that site. It's gone. I mean, it's not gone, but you go there and it hasn't been updated in 3 years. And they made a Stromberg game, which I was hoping that they would at some point maybe make a second season, but that never happened. And they took the Fables comic book and made that into The Wolf Among Us, which was a fantastic murder mystery. And then, of course, I mentioned The Walking Dead, and then now they're taking the Borderlands franchise and doing the same kind of thing they did with Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, and having a story-based thing where you go through and you make decisions, and now Game of Thrones. So I hope that they can take some other franchises at some point. I'd love to see them do Star Wars or Harry Potter or something, and do something like that, because those franchises could use a good game now and then. So yeah, because of that, it's a 9. And if you like what I do, remember to subscribe, like, and share.